Tonight on Put It on the Map, an all-American company swinging for the fences. A look at the house that Ruth, Garrett, DiMaggio, and so many others built into the giant it is today. Batter up in Louisville, Kentucky. Then, we'll wax poetic in Easton, Pennsylvania. The town where more than a century ago, a demanding school teacher came up with a colorful idea that to this day is bringing joy to kids around the world. All that plus a trip to Louisiana alligator country for a spicy look at a simple sauce that even today is producing red-hot returns for the Bayou family who created it. Those stories tonight on the CNBC original production, Put It on the Map.
Good evening, I'm Jon Frankel, and welcome to Put It on the Map. Tonight, the behind-the-scenes stories of 3 all-American brands and the towns they call home. We're going to begin in Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby, birthplace of Muhammad Ali, and the town most major leaguers flock to for their lumber. On a cloudy night in April 1974, Hank Aaron made history, beating Babe Ruth's career record with a 715th home run. Aaron's skill came from years of sweat and determination, but his bat, well, that came from Louisville. Louisville is a proud city of gracious old homes and award-winning modern architecture. One rather unusual bit of architecture marks the home of the premier professional bat, the Louisville Slugger, made by the Hilrick and Bradsby Company. Here, over 2,000 Louisville Sluggers are made each day. About 1 in 5 earns a place in the major leagues, and those are made to the exact specifications of the individual players who get them. According to Hilrick and Bradsby, if you want great wood, you have to go to northern Pennsylvania, where they own Larimer & Norton, a lumber company. Every day, they receive about 2 truckloads of maple or ash. The logs are laid out on the ground where they are measured and examined to see if they're bat-worthy. The company's general manager is Brian Boltz.
After the logs are graded for bat quality, they are sawed into 40-inch blocks. A 40-inch block could yield anywhere from 8 to 25 bats. The wood makes its way into the mill, where Larimer & Norton's laser-guided boring machine cuts out 3-inch round pieces of wood called billets. The billets head to huge kilns where they sit for a month and lose about 90% of their moisture. Only 1 in 10 billets are good enough for the majors. The rest don't make the cut, finding lives in the minors or on amateur fields throughout the country. But wherever they find their home plate, they first have to head to Kentucky. 8,000 of them show up in Louisville each Monday, where they're sorted by weight and quality of wood. Danny Luckett, a 37-year veteran, turns billets into Major League bats, according to the exact weight and dimension specifications of individual players. High-tech machinery ensures the pros get what they want. The company's museum and factory executive director, Ann Jewell, explains.
This is the computer numeric control machine, and this is where all of the pro bats are made. About 2,000 different pro bat models are programmed into the hard drive of this machine, and any difference between the specifications for a bat and the actual bat produced will be less than the thickness of 2 sheets of paper.
It wasn't always done this precisely or this fast. Luckett showed us what's involved in doing it the old-fashioned way. It's an art form using eye, hand, and caliper, constantly comparing the ever-changing billet to the template of the player's bat. No matter how they're made, most ash bats next get their pedigree, burn branding with the Louisville Slugger oval. The nubs are removed, and if called for by the player, wood is scooped out to make the bat lighter. This completes the practical work, and it's time to get pretty. The bats are dipped into a lacquer or a stain, and then they air dry before moving on.
In the final step of the production process, the marks are put on the bats. An ash bat can be burn branded or foil branded, but a maple bat will get a decal put on it because maple's a more brittle wood and we don't want to put too much stress on it.
The origin of the Slugger is a bit hazy, lost in local lore. But Bill Williams, the company's retired head of public relations and its unofficial historian, offers the most cited version.
Well, the business actually started with a broken bat. The Hilricks had a wood-turning shop here in Louisville, had had one since the 1850s, and in 1884, Bud Hilrick, who was a 17-year-old apprentice in his dad's woodworking shop, went to a local baseball game. And the star of the team was Pete, the old gladiator Browning, had the handlebar mustache, just like you see in the movies. He broke his bat, and young Hilrich went up to him after the game and invited him to his dad's shop and said, "I'll turn a bat for you," because Hilrich had been making his own bats and also bats for his Sandlot team. So Browning went down, and at least according to the company legend, the next day he went 4 for 4.
When players began to flock to his door, Bud's father, Jon Frederick Hilrich, was not thrilled. His great-great-great-grandson, also named John, is the current CEO and president of the company. He explains his forebears' unhappiness.
Jon Frederick was really against us making baseball bats because at the time it was really associated with gambling, womenizing, and drinking. And Jon Frederick didn't like any of that stuff.
But in time, it became clear that the bat business was too profitable to ignore, and it slowly became the company's mainstay. As the company grew and the mountains of wood needed to make bats grew, Bud became his father's partner and eventually took over. The company soon allowed customers to buy individual models favored by players such as Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and Lou Gehrig. It was a breakthrough marketing tactic. When the U.S. entered World War II, women manned the lathes at Hilrich and Bradsby, and along with the production of bats came the production of M1 carbine stocks. But once the war was over, players returned from overseas and re-established rather tight bonds with their bats. In the following decades, the company did confront one seismic shift. Following consumer demand, it entered the world of aluminum bats in the 70s, buying a plant in California for their production. For the major leaguers who get these tailor-made bats, Louisville Sluggers are a stamp of success. For a member of the Hilrich family, the bats have an added meaning.
Even for me, when I look out and see the World Series, and I see a product that's made right here in downtown Louisville, not only is it a sense of pride because I'm part of the family, but also that I'm a Louisvillian.
The company is certainly a presence in the city. From its contribution to the skyline, to the fountain that greets you at the University of Louisville's ballpark, to Louisville Slugger Field, the home of the city's minor league team. And the company's bats have certainly been an iconic presence in America's iconic sport. Before the baseball bat, the company's hot product was the swinging butter churn. Remember those? We'll be right back.
Coming up, we'll take you to a Pennsylvania town where a company that got its start more than a century ago turned its black and white world into one of colors and inspiration. That's next when Put It on the Map returns.